Okay, let me say good evening to everyone in Asia and Australia, and good afternoon to people in the Middle East, Europe and Africa, and good morning to those of us who are in one of the Americas. I'm in Miami. My name is Susie Ellis. I'm with the Global Wellness Summit, and welcome to this Wellness Masterclass with Amrutha Shridhar. And it's titled Euromonitor's 2020 Health and Nutrition Survey, Understanding Health by Generations. Every Wednesday, we have a wellness masterclass, and we've had fantastic information and people speaking, and they are recorded, as Nancy said, and you can catch a recording from one that you might have missed, or re-listen or share this one with others. In a moment, I'm going to introduce Nancy Davis, who has already said hello. She is our Chief Creative Officer and Executive Director for the Global Wellness Summit. And she is the founder of the Wellness Masterclass series. And she will introduce Amrutha more formally. And she's also going to moderate this time. I always like to just start with something either personal or a little tidbit, and this is what I want to say. Amrutha and I do not know each other, but I look forward to getting to know her through today. But that is because Euromonitor has a very large team. And I'm very grateful for that, because Euromonitor is a company we respect greatly. And we are so glad they have specialists in different areas. And many of you know that the Global Wellness Institute, which is our sister organization, does research, and we've been doing research for 14 years. And when we did our first study on wellness, there was nothing out there. But once we put it out and shared it with people, because we do that on our website, others started looking at the sector, and Euromonitor was one of them. And we so welcome numbers, percentages, data from Euromonitor, from other companies, because in our industry, and those of us on this call are probably somehow in global wellness economy, the numbers are important. And like Nancy knows, research is one of my favorite topics, because it's what has moved the needle so much in our arena, and why people are paying attention, governments, businesses, individuals. So I value data. We need to, we don't all use the same methods, but we get to listen to data, and that gets to inform our decision making. So I'm really delighted, and I'll turn it over to you now, Nancy, that we have someone from Euromonitor to share data and answer some questions. So Nancy, over to you, and thank you, Amrutha, for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Susie. Before I introduce Amrutha specifically, I just wanted to give you guys a few Zoom instructions, which I always do. Beatrice has muted this group. It's a large group and will continue to grow, no doubt. We're going to keep you muted so that we eliminate all the background noise and so that you can hear Amrutha and all her incredible data. There are two ways to view this call. One is if you go to the top right of your Zoom window and choose Gallery View, you'll see this beautiful mosaic of faces from all over the world. But I would urge you, when Amrutha is presenting, to choose Speaker View so that she is more prominent on your screen. As you most likely already know, center right of your Zoom window, there's a little arrow, and that allows you to scroll from page to page to see, find your friends and colleagues and from all over the world. The chat function allows you to, it's a great place to post a question or comment. Center bottom of your Zoom window, there's a little chat icon. Most of you are familiar and you've already posted. I will just also caution you, please, right next to the chat window is a share screen button. It's bright green and very tempting, but please don't do it. That becomes extremely distracting. People sometimes accidentally hit that. I also do want you to know that we record these sessions, and they are posted almost immediately on our website. And we get a lot of people who view these and forward these to their friends. And I urge you to do the same, because they're incredibly valuable. I was going to say a little bit about Euromonitor, but I really think Susie did. They're just a highly respected global research organization. We love their research and use it. Lots of people do. I think one of the very important things to know today is that they are doing this, Amrutha is presenting this, it's proprietary information. We did not pay to have it. They are doing this really as a service to us and to the industry. And so I want to thank Amrutha for that, and Devora Kaufman, who is on the call, who I have a relationship with and who made possible letting us have access to this information. So no, we won't share the PowerPoint, but yes, everything Amrutha is sharing is recorded and shared. So Amrutha Shridhar is a research consultant. As Susie mentioned, Euromonitor works with people on the ground in various places all over the world, and that makes their research so particularly rich because it really reflects local trends. She is in London. She is responsible for survey development, data analysis, and reporting on consumer behavior and lifestyles across a variety of industries. She specializes in understanding target audiences and markets through consumer segmentation, something very important, I'm sure, to everybody on this call. The reports focus on the results of global consumer trends and segmentation, providing insight that highlights lifestyles and daily habits of global consumers. Amrutha herself has authored many publications. She's here today to help us understand health and nutrition through a generational lens. So it's a great service to us to hear this information and to get it straight from Euromonitor. So Amrutha, over to you.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Susie, as well. That was really kind words and a lovely introduction for Euromonitor and myself as well. Let me just start sharing the screen and then we can get started. Well, thank you all for joining today's session.
I don't know if that's me, just me. Is Amrutha's audio pretty bad for other people? Okay, Amrutha. Okay, maybe there's just another way. Just try to see if it loads in. There's a lot of static and it's very steppy.
Okay, I might stop sharing my video just
That's
to
better.
reduce
That's better.
the band.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So let's get started. Let me know if the audio does get a bit static.
It actually came back while you had your video on. You can try it one more time because we'd love to see your face while you're presenting.
Okay. All right. Let me know if it does go a bit haywire again, but hopefully it's okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining today's session. As Nancy and Susie said, we're going to be focusing on some of our survey results from our health and nutrition survey that was fielded earlier this year. And what I'm basically aiming to cover in today's session is a short
You're going to have to turn off your video. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
That's okay, no worries. Okay, let's go. Again, hopefully this is the one. All right. So what I'm hoping to focus on in today's session is basically give you a brief introduction of Euromonitor as well as our health and nutrition survey. And then what I'm looking to do is go into some of the key trends that we've uncovered in this survey and specifically focus on them from a generational viewpoint. So understanding how different generations are kind of looking at their health, whether it is their sleep or stress or anxiety levels, whether it is their weight management, or whether it is just medical behaviors and perceptions. So hopefully you'll walk away with some key insights and analysis as to how different generations view these various different aspects of healthcare as well as healthy living. And
Amrutha, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I know it's terrible to be interrupted, but it's very staticky and breaking up. Do you have a headset you could put on that might help?
Oh, yes, 1 minute. Let me just get that.
Okay, let's try that because it's so important. And I apologize to everybody, but you know, this is the world we live in now. And when there are technical issues, it's better to just solve them right now. And I know it's hard to be interrupted when you're presenting, but we do want everyone to hear what Amrutha has to say. So we'll get this figured out for sure. So bear with us just a moment. I promise you it's worth it. And if it doesn't get any better, we'll try, everybody can just turn off video for a few minutes while she presents, and we can try that too. Sometimes it's just a situation where the networks just can't handle it.
Okay, can you hear me now, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, is that any clearer?
It seems so right now, so let's try this.
Okay, all right. So I think let's just get started with the actual insights and go through what we're looking to share today.
Perfect.
But yeah, so as Nancy and Susie said, Euromonitor International is a leading market research company. It's headquartered from the London office where I'm sitting, but we have 14 other global offices alongside that as well. And basically, Euromonitor focuses on the industry side of data, such as market shares and distribution channel data in a variety of different industries, spanning everything from alcoholic drinks through to beauty and fashion, as well as travel. And we also look at the consumer side of the data as well, such as understanding habits and attitudes and perceptions of everyday consumers like you and me. I sit on the consumer research side of the company, as Susie and Nancy mentioned, and I'm part of our survey team. So today we're going to be looking at some of those consumer-related trends, specifically in relation to health and nutrition, and with that generational viewpoint, so that we can see how different generations are looking at these specific trends and how it's affecting their behaviors and habits as well. Now, healthy living and behaviors towards health are consistently changing year on year. As new trends emerge, such as the blurring of categories and competitors within health and nutrition industries, as well as the growing concerns about illness and preventative measures being more important than ever, companies and brands really need to understand consumer perceptions and habits when it comes to their health. And understanding consumer needs allows companies to be more proactive in innovation and product development and support targeted marketing and sales strategies. Now, Euromonitor International's latest iteration of the Health and Nutrition Survey, which is what all of the data in this presentation is based on, was fielded in January and February 2020. And this is an online survey with over 21,000 respondents across 21 core markets around the world. And it's basically used to provide consumer insight into everyday and long-term health behaviors and attitudes. The survey covers a wide variety of topics and key trends within areas such as eating habits, nutrition, consumer health, exercise behaviors, and vitamins and supplement consumption as well. So it's really quite an extensive survey that we're running here. And the reason that we're doing this is basically to categorize and to capture all of that information in all of these different areas, because they do touch on healthy living and healthy lifestyles, especially as those categories blur more and more year on year, as we have been seeing. Now, in terms of the methodology for our health and nutrition survey, just so that you have a bit of a background around how we collect this data. So we work really closely with our in-house industry experts and analysts, alongside key players within the industry as well, to develop our health and nutrition survey. And our in-house survey team basically creates and programs the questionnaire, and we field this online in our 21 core markets, adding quotas to ensure that samples are representative of actual country populations in age and gender. And once we're done fielding, the data is cleaned and checked for accuracy and validity before it's published onto our portal. And then it's used by our analysts and researchers to create insightful analysis that I'm hoping that you guys enjoy and find insightful today as well. Now, just a note about the Health and Nutrition Survey and coronavirus, as this is impacting all of us at the moment. The data collected via the Health and Nutrition Survey in 2020 was prior to the large-scale and unprecedented impacts of coronavirus. However, this consumer data remains relevant in today's climate, as it shows growing health-related trends that are likely to be even stronger in the wake of COVID-19, including those that are covered in this presentation. So, for example, the growing interest of consumers seeking a holistic approach to healthy living, as well as an increase in taking preventative measures when it comes to their healthcare, are trends that we've seen in both our 2019 and 2020 health and nutrition survey data. So these trends are still extremely relevant and are expected to continue to grow at a faster rate due to the impact of COVID-19. Though we cannot say for sure how COVID-19 is going to impact consumers and their healthcare habits in the future, what our health and nutrition survey does is show which trends are important to consumers and are likely to continue being part of their healthy lifestyles and behaviors, therefore allowing businesses to understand consumer priorities and strategically plan next steps in an unknown landscape. Now, let's get to some of those key trends, and we'll start off by looking at some general attitudes and perceptions around health. So, health habits and attitudes are an important aspect of consumers' lives and often influence their everyday and long-term decisions, from dietary restrictions to shopping behavior. However, as consumers grow older, their needs and their values, their priorities, they can shift. So across all 4 generations, consumers seem fairly positive about their current health, with the majority of them identifying health as being good, very good, or excellent. It's not surprising that older consumers such as Generation X and baby boomers are less satisfied with their current health as age-related issues and illnesses become more common with those types of consumers. When we're looking at healthy living, it's often had focused on physical ailments and appearance. However, over the past couple of years, there has been this dramatic shift in attention to mental well-being as well, as I'm sure you're all aware. And regardless of age, all consumers are heavily invested in mental well-being, as this is cited as the top meaning of health across all generations. Consumers are looking at health with a holistic view and are highly focused on feeling good. Mental well-being encompasses several of those types of areas, including feeling relaxed, calm, confident, or self-assured. But most importantly, consumers are really taking the time to prioritize themselves and just taking time for themselves as well. Notably, there has been a rise in global consumers taking yoga, participating in meditation, even demanding flexible working hours to maintain a good work-life balance, and spending time on hobbies or spending time with friends and family, as well as placing more importance on sleep. Now we can move on quite easily and quite normally to the understanding of sleep and stress and anxiety, as that fits in quite well into the mental well-being aspect that a lot of consumers are now focusing on. So, with the rise of social media, fast and on-the-go lifestyles, alongside fluctuating political and environmental landscapes, it greatly influences and has increased the amount of stress and anxiety that consumers are feeling on a daily basis. Though many consumers are focused on living balanced lifestyles and the importance of mental well-being continues to grow, stress and anxiety remain an issue for a large part of the population. And this focus on mental well-being is also expected to continue to accelerate and grow in relation to the current COVID-19 crisis. So consumers are really striving to simplify their lives, which can be seen through the continuous growth of convenience products and services. By removing the need for consumers to spend time on tasks or activities that they do not enjoy, these products and services allow consumers to facilitate their mental and physical well-being through other activities, which are deemed as more valuable, such as spending time on themselves, spending time with friends and family, participating in leisure experiences, or even just making time to exercise. So in this space, brands and companies across industries need to ensure that their products and services are as convenient and easy to use and as hassle-free as possible to resonate with particularly millennials, Generation X, and Generation Z consumers. There has also been a growth in consumers using apps and services that limit the usage of certain social media platforms or simply just remind them to look away from their screens from time to time. And these types of products and services, which promote mental well-being and encourage a balanced use of online platforms, are highly likely to resonate with Millennial and Generation Z consumers who are seeking to reduce their stress and anxiety levels, and state that a lot of that stress and anxiety comes from technology use. When we're looking at the sleep habits, Generation Z and Millennials seem to struggle to fall asleep, which could be linked to their high stress levels. And though they are unlikely to wake up frequently during the night, Generation Z and Millennials often feel tired after sleeping and do not necessarily wake up refreshed or awake when they do wake up. These two generations are also most likely to be concerned that their sleep habits are impacting their overall health. So brands and companies that can provide sleep aids, products to calm consumers, or facilitate lifestyle changes that promote sleep, such as exercise or meditation, are really likely to resonate with these younger consumers who are struggling to switch off. Generation X and baby boomers have a different set of struggles when it comes to their sleep. They usually wake up feeling refreshed and awake, however, claim that they suffer from disturbed sleep. So this might be frequently waking up at night or sleeping very lightly. Though these consumers agree that sleep is an important part of their healthy lifestyles, they feel confident that their sleeping habits are good and that they're not necessarily impacting their health in a negative way. Therefore, though brands and companies that provide products and services that facilitate a more restful sleep could be of interest to these consumers, baby boomers and Generation X are not necessarily actively seeking them out. And therefore, they could be products that are considered nice to have rather than really essential for these types of generations. Now we can move on to weight management and the barriers to exercise that I'm sure all of us have at some time. So an important factor for healthy living is weight management. However, consumer perception of what this looks like has been changing recently with more body positive messaging and encouragement to live a well-rounded lifestyle instead of solely focusing on how you look. Though the weight emphasis has shifted as consumers are incorporating mental well-being as well as emotional well-being in their holistic approach to healthcare, Generation Z and baby boomers still prioritize healthy weight as an important aspect of being healthy. And millennials were the generation that was most likely trying to lose weight right now. And traditional methods of weight loss are prioritized across all generations. However, millennials and Generation Z are more likely to increase water consumption and exercise before changing their diet. These two generations are focused not only on maintaining a healthy weight, but more importantly, are seeking to be physically fit and strong. In turn, baby boomers are more likely to make changes to their diet, such as reducing sugar consumption or eating less food overall, before increasing the amount that they exercise. Across all generations, consumers are looking to exercise more and agree that physical activity is an important aspect of a well-rounded, healthy lifestyle. However, putting this into practice can often be challenging, and the barriers to exercise vary across generations. Baby boomers who are currently participating in minimal or no exercise are usually happy with the current level of exercise, often feeling that their regular activities during the day are enough and any additional exercise is unnecessary. These consumers are also least likely to enjoy exercise. And it's important to keep in mind that around 12% of baby boomers say that they are physically unable to exercise. So that is another physical limitation to their exercise habits. Brands and companies should therefore really think about creating exercise platforms and routines and products for baby boomers that can easily be integrated into their lifestyles, so that are not seen as an additional hassle or something to go out of their way to do, as they are really trying to incorporate any physical activity in their daily activities already. Similar to baby boomers, Generation X consumers are fairly satisfied with how much they currently exercise. However, they cite that they not usually have as much time. And that's really the main factor of preventing them of exercising even more or exercising as much as they would like to exercise. So for Generation X consumers who are striving to increase their level of exercise, brands and companies need to ensure that their products and services are convenient to use and that they're time efficient. These could include on-the-go workouts or online and at-home workouts that allow for more flexibility to fit exercise into busy lifestyles. Generation Z and millennials are least likely to be satisfied with how much they exercise, and they are really striving to increase their exercise activity overall. However, time is still a really big factor in preventing these two generations from exercising. Over the last few years, there's been a growing trend of getting exercise wherever possible, with an increase of at-home or online fitness classes, offices partnering with gym membership schemes for their employees, or consumers using their lunch break for a quick jog or to join a fitness class. However, Generation Z and millennials still feel that they don't necessarily have enough time to exercise as much as they want to, and they often kind of prioritize other life priorities, and that can take precedence over exercising. And these can include anything from spending time with friends or having a nice meal at a restaurant. Businesses that have been really successful in this space have been seen to kind of pair various life priorities together in order to resonate with these consumers and to ensure that they're really making the most of their time spent exercising. And this could include anything from marketing classes as a fun activity for friends, or having additional features such as a healthy brunch or a mixology happy hour class afterwards as a treat as well. So that it's not just the exercise aspects that you're selling to these consumers, it's an actual lifestyle and it's a fun activity that you can participate in on your own to get some more interests or to kind of engage yourself in different experiences, or it's something that you can loop your friends or your family into as well. Additionally, Generation Z consumers who currently participate in minimal or no exercise are also highly likely to feel uncomfortable exercising in front of others. So brands and companies should ensure that their products and services encourage building confidence, self-esteem, and overall mental well-being in order to resonate with these consumers. Generation Z may therefore also be a prime market for at-home, online, or private fitness classes, which could alleviate some of those anxieties that they're facing as well. And finally, let's take a look at some kind of general behaviors and perceptions around medical behaviors as well. So medical behaviors and perceptions of healthcare practitioners and pharmaceuticals really vary across generations. Though traditional channels and resources such as doctors, medical practitioners, and pharmaceuticals are still widely used and consulted, the shift towards online platforms and availability of information sources is changing consumers' medical behaviors and perceptions. Baby boomers are most likely to have continuous checkups and visit doctors frequently, whether this is for pre-existing health issues or preventative care. Though Generation Z and millennials continue to visit a doctor, they are also more open to visiting alternative healthcare practitioners or to consulting a pharmacist or a chemist for their needs compared to other generations. In general, it appears that Generation Z and millennials are just more open to trying and trusting alternative avenues of healthcare information, and they're not solely reliant on traditional doctors or medical specialists, especially if this means that they will be able to resolve their healthcare issues quickly and conveniently. Not only are millennials more likely to visit an alternative healthcare practitioner, but they also seem to be more willing to include pharmaceutical products in their lifestyles. Though they feel that pharmaceutical products are effective and are not very worried about the safety concerns compared to other generations, millennials continue to feel that healthy living can be achieved through more natural means. such as dietary changes and exercise habits. Therefore, pharmaceutical companies and brands looking to target millennials need to ensure that their products fit into the millennials' overall lifestyles and are not focusing solely on an end healthcare goal. Generation Z consumers are the least likely to use over-the-counter medicine to treat themselves while suffering from an illness or ailment. They are also more skeptical about the safety of pharmaceutical products in general compared to other generations. And similar to millennials, Generation Z feels like there are other lifestyle changes that can be made to alleviate the impact of healthcare issues and ailments before resorting to pharmaceuticals. Though both generations are steering towards natural living instead of relying solely on pharmaceutical products, their drivers for doing so are quite different. So with millennials, they're seeking a more balanced lifestyle, which does not solely rely on medicine and pharmaceuticals. And Generation Z is more worried about the safety and long-term effects of pharmaceutical products. Interestingly, less than half of the global consumers feel that pharmaceutical products are safe to use. And this is actually highly driven by a select few countries for a variety of different reasons. So cultural trends in France and Germany have long advocated for a more natural lifestyle, with importance being placed on herbal remedies or eating habits and exercise. These consumers, they don't necessarily doubt the effectiveness of pharmaceutical products, but they are more likely to worry about the safety and the long-term effects of them. And then Asia-Pacific markets, such as Japan and South Korea, we noticed are highly indifferent to pharmaceutical products, with around 50% of respondents remaining neutral and neither agreeing or disagreeing on whether pharmaceutical products are safe. And lastly, another thing to keep in mind for this kind of country breakdown of the data is that the fielding timing of this survey, as I mentioned earlier, is in January and February of 2020. So the impact of COVID-19 might have already started changing perceptions around safety and pharmaceutical products, which can especially be seen in the China data that we have over here. Now, key contributing factors to preventing medical visits include, of course, high costs, no reason to visit, too much hassle, and fear or anxiety. Interestingly, baby boomers also feel that medical visits have not always necessarily helped them much in the past, and therefore are not necessarily willing to go again. Barriers such as high cost, hassle, and not enough time are really overcome by technology and online healthcare platforms, and are the main reasons consumers are using these alternative channels. Businesses operating via online channels need to ensure that these factors are always prioritized when it comes to product, service development, and marketing, as they are more likely to resonate with consumers across all generations. Consumers also continue to value and trust traditional information sources, such as doctors and medical professionals, nutritionists, dietitians, and pharmacists. However, when it comes to online health information sources, there are some clear distinctions as to how they're perceived across generations. Millennials are the most comfortable with online health information sources and are much more likely to be influenced by them than other generations. Though Generation Z consumers are relatively trustworthy of online healthcare sources, they are slightly more skeptical than millennials about sharing personal information on the internet. And one thing to keep in mind is that Generation Z has never known a world without the internet, and therefore they are just a bit more wary about the permanence of the data that they share, how it's being used, and they're a bit more aware as well that anyone can put anything on the internet. So those health information sources are taken with a little bit of skepticism and a grain of salt compared to millennials. And though Generation X and baby boomers are less likely to trust an online community or a chat room or a blogger or a social media influencer, they are comfortable in using a virtual doctor or a virtual medical professional, as well as specific healthcare related websites. And this just shows that it's not just younger generations that are using technology and online health information sources. It is the older generations as well, and they need to be kept in mind when brands and companies are creating online marketing strategies or looking at different platforms to engage with consumers. Just because they are becoming more adept into using these different technologies. And it's one of those situations that once you're set up, and a lot of older generations have now been set up due to COVID on different technology platforms, that is the greatest barrier. And now that they have the access and they know how to use it, it is likely that that increase of technology is going to become more pervasive with those older generations as well. So it's a really great opportunity to increase the promotion online and through those virtual kind of platforms as well, to engage and to share information on healthcare. Now, we're coming almost to the end of the presentation, and I just wanted to highlight some key takeaways for you to focus on as well before we open it up for questions. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, healthy living and behaviors towards health are consistently changing year on year. As new trends emerge, such as blurring of categories and competitors within health and nutrition industries, as well as growing concerns about illness, with preventative measures being more important than ever, consumers and brands really need to understand consumer perceptions and habits when it comes to their health. Adding the impact of the current events that we're facing, such as the COVID-19 crisis, as well as rising costs of healthcare and pharmaceuticals, it only adds to the main trends that we've discussed in today's sessions. So as a key takeaway, the most important trends and areas for you to kind of be aware of is that consumers are looking at health from a holistic approach. And this is something that we've seen in data for the past couple of years, and we really expect this to continue to grow. And this kind of holistic approach includes the traditional physical health, but also includes mental and emotional well-being. And this is really an area that is touching all aspects of people's lives. It's not only the decisions that they're making in their personal lives anymore, but it's how they engage with the companies that they work with. And it's what they are expecting from their employers. It's what they're expecting when they commute to work. It's really an all-inclusive area that people are prioritizing their health in all aspects of life. And the idea of what is healthy is also changing with this holistic approach. So as I mentioned, that increase of body positive messaging or the more open conversations around mental health and just being aware of the different areas that people need support is really changing how everyone is viewing health, and that it is a very balanced lifestyle that is necessary and that consumers are kind of prioritizing when it comes to their healthcare. In the wake of COVID-19, the trend around preventative healthcare is likely going to really accelerate. And again, this is something that we had been seeing in previous years of data, especially due to drivers such as increased healthcare costs, increased pharmaceutical costs, and just the accessibility of getting good healthcare and good medical advice. So these preventative measures are really being taken on board across all generations. And that is, again, fitting into that holistic approach into how people are viewing their health. They want to make sure that they are eating the best diet that they can in order to avoid illnesses further along the line. And they're making sure that they are prioritizing exercise, that they are happy, confident, maybe that they are going to therapy sessions, and that they are really kind of looking at preventative measures in overall health, just to reduce that cost later on down the line in case there is any illnesses or ailments that do pop up, that they've done their best that they can. And that is just a really important message, even just for the future, but also as consumers are taking those preventative health measures, it's just becoming a norm in their lifestyles. So making sure that both the holistic approach and that preventative measure is really kind of included into how brands and companies are selling healthcare products to their consumers. And finally, there's a lot of information today. There are so many channels, there are so many different ways that people can get their healthcare information from. And that is just making this industry much more competitive, and it's blurring those categories and those different areas even more than before. So previously, when you might have had a pharma company was looking only at other pharma companies as their competitors, they can no longer do that. They are now looking at packaged food companies, they're looking at fitness companies, they're looking at beauty companies, and all of that is included into that information as to how you should be living your life and what the best way to be healthy is. And with all of that information, there is, again, a great opportunity for brands and companies to reach their consumers in a more targeted way, but understanding how each consumer type, whether it's by generation or income or anything, how they're kind of using that information and which channels and platforms they're accessing is really important to narrow down who you're targeting with your products and services. So those are kind of the three main areas that I'm hoping you guys are going to take away from today's session. And again, as we've seen through the data in today's session, it is a very different approach that generations take for all of these different areas, which is completely natural as they are in different life cycles and in different areas of their own health journeys. But understanding kind of which features and which areas to prioritize for a specific generation, as well as how to access them, is really important to make sure that they're getting the most valuable products and services for them and really getting all of the benefits and features that they're looking for according to their needs and values as well. But with that, I'd just like to say thank you for Nancy and Susie and Devora from Euromonitor's side as well to arrange the session. And I loved being a part of it. And I really hope that you guys have some questions for me now that I can help answer.
Amrutha, thank you so much. This information has been enormously powerful and helpful. Lots of people have been commenting. There are a few questions we're going to get to. Okay, I'm glad you're back on video so we can see you as we talk to you. One thing I wonder, just as we continue the conversation, could you define just tell us the ages of the categories of people? I just want to, in my head, get very clear on who's Generation X versus millennials, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Generation Z currently would be 23 or younger. So yeah, basically okay. From that age. And then millennials would be from 34 roughly to 25. Generation X would be from 35 up, and then baby boomers are usually from 65, 70 up. So those are kind of the base descriptions for how we've classified our generations, but it varies.
You say millennials were 34 to what?
To 25, 24.
34 to, so 25 to 34?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, a couple of things that I want to get to that people posted in the chat. And let's start with Sharon Fichetti. Hope I'm saying that right. Had a question really around the language of the survey and whether or not, and this is something that sort of we're seeing, it's kind of like the language in the industry. We don't say mental health. We say stress and anxiety. And the question was wondering whether or not that in some way diminishes what, you know, why aren't we saying mental health when you're asking about those questions? You talk conclusively about mental health and mental wellness, but you don't use that language in the survey. Is there a reason?
So we do use that specific language in the survey. So basically for that graph, that bar chart that I was showing, the question that was given to respondents was, how do you define health? And then all the answer choices include mental well-being, emotional well-being, physical activity, etc. So there is a specific answer choice that is mental well-being. That was the most highly selected one across all generations and across respondents as to how they define health or being healthy.
Amrutha, were there any results that surprised you? Did you when you designed this survey and started doing this analysis, were you surprised by any of the results?
I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised actually, about the wariness of Generation Z, especially when it comes to pharmaceutical products and just kind of being more skeptical about the information sources that they're getting their healthcare information from. I definitely was not expecting that. I was expecting them to be much more along the lines of millennials, very open to technology, but that is something that we've seen across quite a few of our consumer surveys that we run at Euromonitor, is that Generation Z is just very aware of information in general, and they kind of want to access it from all angles, and they do their research thoroughly before making any kind of decisions. Whether it's shopping decisions or healthcare decisions as well. So that is definitely an area that I found really interesting. And the other area that I found really interesting as well is we're getting so much messaging around body positivity and around not necessarily fitting into a specific type of image when it comes to being healthy. And that is definitely a step in the right direction. But I thought it was still really interesting that so many consumers in the survey still said that physical appearance was an important aspect to being healthy, and that losing weight was still an important aspect to being healthy. And some of the data points that we have that I didn't showcase in today's session, but they focus more on specific ingredients or functional kind of traits that food or nutrition has. And a lot of the features that were highly selected were those around weight loss or around, you know, slimming down or increasing muscle mass in certain areas. So it is definitely a move in the right direction for that body positive imaging, but it's not necessarily taken by all consumers. And I was interested to see that it wasn't as pervasive or as kind of ubiquitous in terms of a type of thinking, in terms of what people were defining as health. So I thought that was still very interesting and definitely showcased that we still have a long way to go in terms of promoting that different kind of healthy living style where it's more focused on strength and fitness rather than physical appearance.
You mentioned the blurring of sort of industry verticals, that, you know, pharmaceutical companies aren't just worried about other pharmaceutical companies, they're worried about, you know, packaged food. And, you know, can you just expand a little bit on that thought? Because I think a lot of us in the industry are seeing the lines blurred between sectors. And it would be interesting to hear a little bit more about what you found, the results of that.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we created the survey to touch on so many different viewpoints was that we were getting feedback from internal research as well as our clients saying that they are facing challenges and competition from companies outside of their actual industries. So pharmaceutical companies were seeing that people were changing their diets in order to get more vitamin C and not necessarily taking a vitamin C supplement anymore. So as soon as packaged food companies start fortifying their food and putting those types of supplements and vitamins and things like that into their food, or fortifying them with iron or protein, that is taking away some of their kind of market share in that space as well, especially if consumers, as we've discussed, are moving to that more holistic viewpoint as to how they're looking and viewing their health. So a lot of consumers, especially the Generation Z and millennials, are looking to kind of change their diet before they take a vitamin or supplement. So having that option of a cereal bar or a protein shake is more likely to be taken than having a pharmaceutical product or a vitamin or supplement. So it's that specific aspect where we see the blurring of categories. And that's just one example, but you can see them in every other way as well, whether it's a beauty and personal care company that is including CBD oil in their moisturizers now, or in their candles, or whether it is just a fitness company that is looking at creating or alleviating stress or anxiety through their own classes. So it's that blurring of categories that people need to keep in mind when they're working within the industry, just because your traditional competitors are not solely your only competitors anymore.
Yes, the lines are blurring. Susie, before we get to other questions, you have a question?
I just wanted to point out that Lisa Holmes added in the chat that she's on Amrutha's team, and that she wanted to clarify the age bands because I guess she had them right in front of her. So if you'll look at that, for Euromonitor, Gen Z is 15 to 24, millennials 25 to 39, Gen X 40 to 54, and baby boomers 55 plus. Because there was quite a bit of chat about different. And I know that not everyone defines these exactly the same, but thank you, Lisa, for that. And I know, Amrutha, you might not have had them right in front of you. So, so anyway, if you want to look at the chat, that's the numbers that we have from Euromonitor. So I just wanted to clarify that. Nancy, over to you.
Thank you, Susie, and thanks for clarifying that. I saw that in the chat. A question before we get to kind of final thoughts from Jimena Benitez, and I hope I'm saying that right. Do you have specific insights per generation regarding services and well-being programs and priorities by generation? Like, what if you were based on this information, designing programs and services by generation, what would be the priorities in those generations? What would you do? What would you prioritize for millennials versus Gen Z? Something like that.
Yeah, so
you can see people on this call want to take your information and put it to work. That's what they're going to do.
Well, that's what I want them to do. So it's all good. So for Generation Z and millennials, I think for a lot of their kind of healthcare issues, we can group them together just because they are looking at healthcare in that holistic viewpoint. And again, it is really fitting into their existing lifestyles of convenience, being time efficient, and making sure that they're not losing out on the other things that they prioritize, whether that's family time or their hobbies or going out to dinner or going on holidays, but it's making sure that you're incorporating healthy lifestyles in those areas. So whether it is ensuring that when they go traveling, their hotel has a gym or has classes available for them, whether it is like the examples that I mentioned, just collaborating maybe with their favorite fashion designers, but it's adding additional areas into their healthcare or their fitness regime or where they're buying their food from, and just making sure that it aligns with additional lifestyle values, whether that is, it could be anything really in terms of how they prioritize their goals and needs. It could even be making sure that the company works with really active political or environmental or sustainable features or companies. So it's basically just looking at it from a holistic viewpoint and making sure that you are incorporating not just healthcare, but everything else in their lifestyles as well for those two generations. For Generation X, definitely the time management is a really big driver for that specific generation. So anything that you can make as convenient, as quickly to use, that is a big driver for them, whether it is an easy to use fitness class, or even if it is like a multivitamin. I think they were the largest group of respondents of that generation that were likely to take a multivitamin. So just that specific area of convenience and trying to hit all of the different pockets of healthcare as quickly as possible. And then for baby boomers, I think the biggest takeaway is that we shouldn't class them as a bucket of just older generations. They are a generation that is moving into technology, and they are kind of recapturing their youth in many ways as well. So ensuring that they are able to kind of add little bits of exercise or increase their kind of dietary changes into the lifestyle that they have as well. Again, I think we often see that that specific generation gets neglected and put aside, but they need to be brought back to the forefront because there is a really big opportunity, especially as they are getting more comfortable with technology, of a growth space in that. And many of them do want to keep traveling and be part of different leisure activities and experiences. So it's making sure that all of that is involved in the healthcare decisions as well.
Thank you so much. Susie, did you want to say something before we?
Yes, I just have one question, and I'm wondering, in our wellness world, we are hearing the term self-care more often. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering if Euromonitor, if you're using that, seeing that, just wondered about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, self-care, when we're looking at the analysis, it does fit into that, again, mental well-being, emotional well-being, as well as the kind of importance that people are placing on just time for themselves. And that is something that we definitely see growing across all generations. Separate to what I've shared with you all today, we have another survey that we run at Euromonitor called the Lifestyle Survey. And using that data, we basically do a cluster analysis and create specific personality-driven segmentations. And one of those segmentations that we've created for this year is called the Self-Care Aficionado. And that is a consumer segment that is really valuing themselves, the time they spend on themselves, and they prioritize just their general happiness necessarily over maybe their job or kind of any other aspects. So financial wealth or kind of career goals may be put aside just because they aren't necessarily driven by that. They're looking at having time for themselves, spending time with their friends and family, doing their hobbies. So that's definitely something that we're seeing and is growing out of that kind of trend of people spending more time on mental well-being, emotional well-being, meditation, yoga, and things like that. So if you are interested in that, we do have a free white paper on the Euromonitor.com website.
Yes, I'm going to just say that we send a follow-up email. In that email, because Devora has also offered, we'll be sending links to the information, some of the things that Amrutha has mentioned and referred to, and things that are available, white papers and various other things. So I'm going to give you the last word, Amrutha, and that is ask everybody on the masterclass very quickly, a few words. What are you optimistic about? What keeps you up at night? And if based on you talk to a lot of people, you crunch a lot of data, you analyze a lot. What keeps you up, and what are you feeling good about?
Oh, way to put me on the spot there, Nancy.
That's my job.
I think it's fair to say that a lot of us are worried about a lot of things right now with the current climate, but to focus on the positives, and Devora knows this already, but during lockdown, we had the ability, because we're working from home, to adopt a rescue dog. And that is definitely keeping me going right now. She is so lovely, and she's grown in so much confidence, and I just love having her around. And it definitely is a plus to come home after, well, not to come home, but to come from my upstairs office room to the downstairs living room and to see that lovely face. So that's definitely something that's keeping me going.
Well, that's wonderful. And Zoom has now made it impossible to unmute everyone all at once. So I want everyone to feel free to unmute now and say thank you to Amrutha for this incredible information. Amrutha, we will also be sharing the chat. You can see all of the terrific comments and commentary.
Thank you.
Thank you. A big global
Thank you, Amrutha.